This is Colin Selby with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and these are my throwback reels. Yeah, so I think this is my sophomore year. We were playing in it was called the Southeastern District Conference tournament at the time, but then my junior year it got switched to the different classifications, 1A through 6A being the highest populated school area or school zones. But yeah, this was in the tournament against Great Bridge. It was usually us and Great Bridge, and then mix in a three that were interchangeable between Grassfield and Hickory and whatnot. But it was usually us and Great Bridge were the top two. And I was actually going against a senior this year, or he was a senior that year, going to UVA, and he plays with the Cardinals now. But I remember that was like a big start for me because it was the first tournament or the first game of that tournament, or maybe it was the second game of that tournament. And I had to go against a senior kid that could have possibly got drafted out of high school, but decided to go to UVA instead. So I remember that being a big start, and I actually threw well. I don't really remember a whole lot from it, but I just remember we won that game. But I couldn't tell you anything that I did. I kind of just blacked out. So with the falling off thing, in high school, it was kind of just like a velo thing for me. Like, you were always trying to light up the radar gun, always getting these college coaches to come see you. In my opinion, college coaches only really care about the radar gun, and then pitching capability second. So I was trying to light up the radar gun, and I'd say in high school, I walked a good amount of people. So I think, like, just going through it, that was just kind of my mindset. My whole high school career was just try and light up the radar gun, and I didn't throw hard enough to try and light up the radar gun to get this big D1 from UVA or UNC or all these ACC and SEC schools, but I tried anyway. So then I went to college and kind of was still in the high school mode, I guess. I would always take the game seriously. I was always competing as hard as I could, but the practices and everything leading up to it and all that other stuff, it wasn't really like I wasn't serious about it. And my freshman year of college, I got hurt my hamstring. My sophomore year of college, I got hurt my shoulder, but the shoulder was like nothing really bad. We took MRI, nothing bad happened or anything. And then my coach actually sat me down, was like, you need to get in shape. We don't need you. You're too talented to do all these things. I remember my dad sat me down in the garage telling me he might pull me out of school because my grades were bad. And that was like the one time I realized, like, my dad kind of wanted it a little more than I did, and that's not the way it should have been. It should have been I wanted it more than he did. So anyway, at the end of the sophomore year, my coach talked to me and was like, you need to get ready for the next year so you can get drafted. I was like, okay. And at the end of my sophomore year, I remember weighing myself in Thanksgiving, and I was 242. So my sophomore summer going into my junior year, I ended up going to CrossFit and I didn't do any of like the overhead snatches or anything, just to like make sure I didn't get hurt and I would stay healthy and whatnot. So I did that, and I came back to school weighing 218 to 220, and I was ready to go and had a healthy year all year long. And then was fortunate to get picked up in the draft that year. So sometimes you don't see it clearly at first, but then you look back and you're really thankful of some of the things that were said to you and when they sat down with you and stuff like that. Yeah, so this is against Grassfield, the team that could have been like the third seed-ish or the fourth. This was my junior or senior, I don't remember, maybe my senior year. So they actually stayed in our conference in 6A, so we played them every year, and it was always us and Grassfield together. So this was always the big game of the year. And yeah, wow, so I don't know who records these videos. So my mom and my mom's sister will always look at us online and type us in and on YouTube or whatever, and she sees these videos. She's like, do you know who these are? I'm like, no, I don't know who posted that. So I always had like new videos on YouTube and I never knew where they came from. I think at the same time, my sophomore year, I was probably pitching with that pitching coach I was talking about. It probably was only like two or 3 years I've been working with him, and it wasn't like I was working with him every single day. It was only because we were playing travel ball on the weekends and traveling during the week. So it's kind of just like when I had time. So I think it's just like the more I worked with him, the better it was, like the better it came out to be. Because I do remember there was times where he would stand right beside me while I was throwing off the mound, and if I hit him, then I knew I was flying off too much. But at the same time, like it has gotten more controlled and better, but I think you're always going to have a little bit of that falling off just because of the game speed kind of thing. But yeah, seeing my videos from sophomore year until senior or even now, you can definitely tell there's been a lot of changes. And I'm even working on stuff now too. So I'm excited to see what the videos are going to look like 2 years from now. But yeah, only thing you can keep doing is keep working, keep perfecting that craft and see what happens. (13 to 15), I don't know specifically. I do remember a big thing when I started pitching was I played catcher. I was a catcher and I played a little bit of outfield. So catcher, you want a very quick arm path, but then an outfielder, it's longer, kind of like a pitcher. So I remember when I was 12 to 13 having to change that arm path, and it took a while to get it consistent. But other than that, I just remember specific things were like the arm path was too short and I had to make it longer. My lead leg that would land, I needed it to be kind of like lock out when you start to go over your front leg. I remember that one was a problem for a little bit. And then I also started all the way on the first base side of the pitcher's mound, and then by the end of it, I was all the way on the third base side, just to help with the angle of my arm to right-handed hitters and left-handed hitters. So those three things I think were the biggest things for me at the time. So this was against the West Virginia Power. That one actually, that field that they were playing at, that was our field last year. So that would have been the field I would have played at, but then the Pirates signed a new contract with the team in Greensboro, so we ended up playing down there. But yeah, to the video, I usually like to play up in the zone a little bit. My fastball's got some pretty good ride on it, and it's kind of heavy. So I like pairing that with my breaking ball, whether I have the slider or the curveball. But I have to look at the video or the pitches before that to kind of tell you what I was thinking before or leading up to that pitch. At the same time, a thing that I need to get better at is reading the hit. Like I can read the hitters, but I need to do a better job of reading the hitters. So for example, my pitching coach used to always get mad because when he'd come out to the mound or something and my catcher would come out with me, he'd be like, "What do you want to throw here?" And I'd always say, "I don't care," and just have the catcher throw down whatever. And I was confident in throwing it and he was confident in calling it. So that's what I would throw. But that'd be one thing I had to get better at, was actually reading the hitters. And I did learn a little bit throughout the way of the season on what pitches need to double up on what and stuff like that based on swings. I'd say if there's I don't really have a problem throwing any of them. As a starting pitcher, you need to learn how to throw in and out, so to keep the batters off balance. So when the relievers come in behind you, you've already established this platform for the guys behind you, so they don't need to try and establish the inside corner when you already did it for 5 to 6 innings before that. So the hitter can't just lock on one thing. He's got to worry about the whole zone. So as a pitcher, you just worry about quality starts and make sure you're hitting both sides of the plate, so the hitters can't lock in on one spot. At the beginning of the games, definitely go inside a lot. That was our emphasis with our pitching coach. He's like, you need to get the ball in. It doesn't necessarily need to be a strike, but you need to throw the ball in for effect. And my thing is, like, if you throw in, they're going to move unless you're throwing behind them. So I never had a problem throwing in because I knew I could miss and it wouldn't be a problem because they would get out of the way. So yeah, just a big thing as a starter would be to make sure you hit the inside corner, make sure you get a ball in, 2 balls in inside, just make them uncomfortable. I feel like that's your job as a starting pitcher, just moving throughout the game, keeping them uncomfortable. Yeah, this is the Hickory Crawdads. They're with the Rangers, the Texas Rangers. I remember that kid specifically. He had a huge leg. I think it was 2 strikes there, so the leg kick wasn't as high. But that kid had a huge leg kick. I'm pretty sure I was going fastball ins, breaking balls, trying to keep him off balance because he ran into a few. I remember that series, so I just had to make sure he was uncomfortable the whole time and try and get him out in front since he had that huge leg kick. So just moving the ball around with him, change ups, and then obviously breaking balls. Yeah, I think the breaking ball has been my stronger suit since I started working with this pitching coach. I try to throw a normal curveball, and then over a period of time, it kind of turned into a knuckle curve, which is what I throw now. And then the slider came probably my junior year, maybe I started throwing a slider. But yeah, my curveball I think has always been that one pitch. I feel like I remember when I started throwing a curveball, it was more like a slurve. My pitching coach wanted to be more of like a true curveball. So he was like, all right, well, let's try and throw a knuckleball or a knuckle curve. You'll get more rotations out of it, and it'll do a little bit more. And I was like, okay. So with the combination of the knuckle curve and the elevated fastball or the fastball that I have, I felt like that was the best for me. So that's what we stuck with. And I've been throwing this curveball since probably 13, and I haven't changed it at all. So, I mean, I like it. I think it's very effective. Other people tell me it's good, so I don't want to change it. So that's what I've been working with since I was 12. All right, that was probably one of the better ones I've ever thrown. I remember watching that one. I was like, oh, because you don't really see. I don't really see like my pitches work like while I'm actually throwing. Like I'll see where they end up and where they kind of start, but like to actually see them on video, you realize like, oh, okay, that was a little different than what I remember it. Well, yeah, that one was gross. I remember watching that one. But I remember that team they were very aggressive in the zone. They were probably one of the better hitting teams we faced. So just like, again, like just keeping them off balance, making sure you're mixing pitches well and stuff like that. But yeah, as you could see, they were a big swinging team and they could hit the ball. I mean, you're trying to get better every single day. In the bullpen, I always try and work on 1 or 2 things. And it's never pitches, like fastball, curveball, or whatever location or anything. It's always trying to stay on my back leg a little longer, or making sure my foot strike is consistent, stuff like that. Like very rarely do I go into a bullpen and see how hard I can throw this ball or how much I can make something break. Like it's more based on mechanics and just keeping you sharp for the outing coming up and outings after that. So going back to like the college thing in high school, or high school not really because you didn't really throw bullpens that much, but college, if you didn't take the work leading up to your start seriously, sometimes it would show in the game. So I think for me, even though I'm not throwing game speed in a bullpen as of last year, you're still trying to put the ball, like throw it pretty well, probably 70%, where you can tell what things are doing. But yeah, I feel like you need to take the bullpen as serious as possible. You're not going to go up there and just start throwing whatever you want, because then at a certain point, it's like the confidence might go away or something like that. Like you want things to be sharp throughout the week, so you know that you have it for sure on your start day at the end of the week. I don't know. I don't want to model myself after a certain pitcher because I'm not there. I'm not there yet. But there are a lot of guys that have very sound mechanics that throw the ball very well and are very dominant, like this year DeGrom and Bieber and guys like that. Like, you try and model your pitching mechanics and your velo and whatever. You want to be just like those guys. But in the end of the day, you're your own person, you're your own player, and so you want to try and get to as close as you can with that. But yeah, if I had to pick some guys, I think DeGrom has the most beautiful mechanics, and the way the ball comes out of his hand, it's just so. I'm actually going to in November. I'm going up north near DC, and I'm going to try and get my mechanics perfect. So, trying to learn how to throw again after Tommy John. Yeah, so I had the surgery March 12th, and then I was rehabbing in Pensacola at the Andrews Institute. I think I came home in mid to late August, but I started throwing mid to late August, and then I threw until October 2nd. And so right now I'm shut down for a month, and then we'll pick it back up in November. My buddy works at a place called R&D Baseball, so I'm excited to get with him because they do the slow motion camera and the mechanics, biomechanics stuff and stuff like that. So he's near DC. So I'm looking forward to go up there after after October ends, and I'll live with him and probably work out from November to January, February, whenever I need to go back down to Bradenton. But yeah, that from like the rehabbing coming up after Tommy John, I've heard a lot of people say that you have setbacks and you may think that you tore it again, but I never really had that problem, knock on wood, that at least this first part of it. So we got the second part coming up, and I'm pretty excited. So I was throwing, last spring training, I was throwing off a mound and everything. And the breaking balls were bothering me a little bit, and changeups were bothering me a little bit. But fastballs were like pretty good. Like, I remember someone was getting my velo and it was like 92, 93. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that's just still spring training. Like, I'll be all right. And then the bullpens went to fastball changeups and it wasn't feeling 100%. And I was like, you know what? I should probably get this looked at. And I got it looked at. They did inject the dye in there and had the MRI. And then the next day they told me it was torn. I was like, okay, so now what? And then so I went to Birmingham with the Andrews Institute and had the second opinion there. And they're like, yeah, he's like, have you ever had an x-ray? I was like, no, well, I don't know why I would need one. And so we had an x-ray, and apparently a bone broke off of my elbow. So it was kind of like, and it's been broke for a while because on the x-ray it wasn't like a sharp break or anything. It was kind of rounded. And apparently my UCL was just rubbing up against the bone, just like fraying at it. And he was like, I mean, it was a matter of time before. It wasn't if it was going to tear, it was when it was going to tear. And he's like, have you, anything happened to you when you were younger or anything? I was like, I don't know, unless my mom dropped me off my head or something. I don't really remember that. So that was about it. I mean, he said that probably 2/3 of the Tommy Johns were the normal Tommy John. And then 1/3 of the Tommy Johns he gets was the one I had, where like a bone kind of breaks off and it was just fraying at the ligament. So yeah, that was new to me. I'm feeling good. I'm able to work out pretty much in full. The Pirates won't let me go golfing. That's about the only thing. But yeah, working out is fine. I can deadlift as much as I want. I can bench as much as I want. And there's no like pain or anything in my elbow. It'll get tight a few times, but it's never hurt or anything. I'm working on like a kind of like a smoother arm path. So I told you I went from short to long because I was a catcher and then had to go to a pitcher. And now it's like you want to have a little bit. So when you go back, you want it to still be long, but you want your arm to be bent a little bit. And mine's kind of just like extended the whole time. So it's putting a lot of stress on my elbow and shoulder. So I'm trying to clean that up a little bit. But from what I've done this past month, I can feel it coming out of my hand a little bit better, a little more explosive. But yeah, this first month I was only throwing fastballs and stuff. So but from that point, I was throwing at 60, 90, and 120 feet. But I mean, the ball felt good coming out of my hand. I had no pain, so I was happy with it. Yeah, we were in Florida in Pensacola, and I was throwing with one of the PT guys, and it felt like I was just pushing the ball, like I was playing shot, like I was doing shot put or something. Because it was weird to have my elbow and my arm lay back like it's supposed to when you're throwing. So that was one thing that I was scared about. I could definitely feel myself the first couple of times throwing. I was more of a shot put. And then when I would throw, it would be, if I'm throwing 60 feet, I'd throw it 40 feet and 3 feet to the left. So like it wouldn't be anywhere near them. But after a few weeks, you got used to it, and I could kind of got the accuracy and location back. So yeah. This is Colin Selby with the Pittsburgh Pirates, at Selby11 on Instagram. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to ESQ for more episodes.